You'd like to read that for me?
Yes, I would. I wish I could. The purpose of this course is to hone the commissioner's skills in assessing units, determining their strengths and weaknesses, and in developing plans to improve the functioning of the unit. When collaborating with the unit, key 3, the commissioner may be able to help identify critical issues and keep the unit from becoming an at-risk unit.
Okay. Now that I want you to keep in mind that this is what this course is really all about, is that our responsibilities as a unit commissioner is to assess the units, okay? And it's important for us to realize that as we're assessing the units, we'll be able to determine if they are an at-risk unit, okay? And it's very easily, because I've been through several of these in the past couple of years, where when you go to visit the unit, I think it was Carol that was in the other unit that made the comment about the importance of we need to make sure we visit the units to find out how they're doing. And if there is a problem, then we need to act on that problem, okay? While this course, we're going to be able to do these things. First, we're going to be able to identify when a unit has a critical issue, okay? That'd be the first thing. The second thing is to work through the process to develop the action that we need to take. The second, or third actually, is to provide practical experience in solving issues, okay? And when we talk about practical experiences, is it something that we ourselves has experienced, or do we need to come up with something, to come up with an idea to help the unit out? Okay. I've given you this matrix sheet, and this is something that we're going to use because we have 4 scenarios that we're going to go through today. And the reason for this is to help you to have an understanding. This is how you evaluate the unit when there is an issue, okay? Because you have a high, you have a medium high, you have a medium low, and you have a low, okay? You score them. Okay, when you score them, you use a green, lime, yellow, orange, or red. Now, the definition that you do for them is to nearly an ideal situation, making progress towards the unit. Typical unit could improve, needs improvement, when watched carefully, and weak situations need immediate actions. These are definitions that are part of the matrix. And then we get to the program plan. You plan, you create, and then you distribute. And then you plan to complete let me reverse that. You complete the plan as you've made it. Now, the meeting is important that you put up a schedule with the people that you're meeting with. And we're going to talk a little bit about this as we're going through the class in itself. Now, the unit itself will also need to have a schedule. They need to know what your schedule is when you're going to meet, okay? And then, if they didn't have a plan, you look at your color scheme, they get red, okay? These are how we track our units in a sense, okay?
Question.
Yes.
But this column on the right over here, at the bottom, you have no meeting plan. What meeting is that you're referring to?
For an example, as you visit the unit, you ask the unit, do you have a plan, a unit plan? And so you're going to assess them on that according to the colors that they have. If they've got a plan, then you give them the green, which means they're high. They've got their plan that's made. They can give it to you and look at it, and you can say, hey, that's great. You got a great plan there. Continue to move forward, okay? And it's the same thing for each one of them. The one thing that you need to keep in mind is using the scoring system, the coloring system, and the program plan, okay? All right, moving forward. Oh, let's go back. Okay, now this is going to be a critical, in your packet that I've given you here, this is well, first of all, let's talk about what is a critical issue? What would you call, your name is?
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, what would you call a critical issue in a unit?
Well, the one that we're dealing with right now is the scoutmaster and committee chairman
Or bashing heads? Quite common, really quite common. Brian, do you have anything?
Yeah, accepting the cultures of, how can I say it right, the right way, cultures of different people, their backgrounds.
Okay. Diversity.
Yes, diversity.
And that's one of those areas that you're going to find quite common in a lot of units nowadays. Since the LDS has pulled out of the project, most units are now community units, and you're going to be diversified. And so those are the things that we have to get used to dealing with. Okay. Now, in your little packets that I give you, you have a scenario there. This is our first scenario of 4. Okay. And the scenario itself is this. You and everyone else show up for the PAC meeting and the Cub Master doesn't. You hear that this has happened a couple of times before. Now, I want you to take on that sheet of paper that you've got using your matrix system, grade this unit. Tell me what you think what would you do to help this unit to overcome? Okay, Glenn, tell me how you would help this unit.
Well, first off.
What is the problem first?
Well, the first off is that the Cub Master probably was delayed, possibly. We haven't received a phone call or anything like that to tell us an update if he's in an accident or whatever, why he's not there. But as a commissioner, I would ask, are you okay if I step in and do something with the PAC?
Okay.
Because I've done things in the PAC program before where I know what can happen or what could do in helping this situation.
Okay.
The program to move. But in scoring this I would say it's a medium, a yellow, because of several times that it's happened. And why is it happening? Is he just not coming because he's becoming lazy or what? We don't know, but still stepping in and helping, asking, can I help with something?
Okay.
And if the committee chairman says, I'm not sure what the Cub Master had in plan, or we had this on the schedule, and that's, I can fill in if you want me to.
Okay. Very good. How about yourself?
I'm trying to separate this from the world that we're going through right now. And what I've seen in the past, I would put it as a red.
Okay.
Knowing that the ship has already started downhill.
I was going to say, what was your determination to make this critical?
This isn't the first or the starting of the situation. This is now it's being manifest.
Because if we look at this here, from this point all the way down through here, it talks about you have heard that this has happened a couple of times before. So the Cub Master hasn't been there.
Yeah.
So that automatically, to me, as I am assessing the situation of that Cub Pack, that is really an issue right there. That Cub Master has missed a couple of meetings before, and so what does that do to the pack when the Cub Master's not there?
Start the question of,
Yeah.
has he got
Everything now becomes, it's an array, right? Because they don't know what's going on. Because normally the Cub Master is not there. Now, let me ask you another question. When we look at this scenario, you and everyone else show up for the PAC meeting and the Cub Master doesn't. You hear that this has happened a couple of times before. Now, who would be the people that you would want to contact to assess the situation? Who are they?
charter organization,
Okay,
committee chairman,
committee chair.
and probably The Weeblos leader or the Cub Master.
The Cub Master, because they're your key three, remember? Your COR, the committee chair, and the Cub Master are your key three for that unit. So it's important for the COR and the committee chair to call and talk with the Cub Master, see what's going on, right? And one thing that we need to always remember that when we're looking at these scenarios that we're dealing with in our everyday, because in today's world, our units are having issues. Every one of them does. I don't care where they're at. Because a lot of times it's not running smoothly. Okay. And so it's important to realize that we need to make sure that that Cub Master is the one that we want to talk to. Okay, what are the reasonings? Why have you not showed up a couple of times? And then maybe a question or two such as, have you been busy? Do you need some help? Is there something that we can do as a unit commissioner that we can help you to at least have someone there representing you at the PAC? Because in reality, the Cub Master should be answering to who? Who does she have help from, or he?
Committee.
Okay, well, you have the committee that's there to help, but you also have who?
Your assistant.
Your assistant Cub Master, and you have other leaders that are there. So in reality, this Cub Master should be actually reaching out to someone. And as the key three, when you're discussing this with her, these are kind of examples that you would reach out to and say to them, or say to her or him, you know, we can help you here if you would let us know. But it's important for you as a Cub Master, you're responsible for the PAC. If you can't be to the meeting, let your assistant know so that she'll understand, okay, here's my plan that we have for this night. So they know what's going on. Does that make sense? Any questions at that point? Okay, let's move on here. Okay. As we go through these, we're going to look at this as we were just talking. You've got to recognize where the problem is, and we've already talked about that. You have to identify the cause of the problem. Which was the problem? It's Cub Master. Okay? Then we need to determine an action. We needed to make an action plan. And we're doing this with who? The key three. And so then at that point, you'll be able to put that plan in action to help him or her out so that they can function better as a PAC. Okay? And then the most important thing on this whole scenario is that you got to act. You've got to act. You can't be complacent and sit back and think that things are going to be okay and that everything's going to be resolved. Because as a commissioner, and I think it was Carol in the meeting that we had before that made the comment that as a unit commissioner, our main responsibility is to make sure that we stay in contact with the units, the PAC, the troop, the crew, whatever, making sure that their needs are being met, or if there's something there that we can do to help. Does that make sense? Okay. And then after you've done that, you review the results and then you make your adjustments. And you make those adjustments with who? Who do you make that? Who do you talk to about this right there? Back up for it. When we review the results and adjust, it's this button. Who do we review the results with?
Sure. And on how, so not the politics, some of the personalities, the situation may make it so it's not the key three.
Okay.
It may just be an individual that is having a problem with the others, but they're not having a problem with them. So
Okay.
don't drag more people into this than there needs to be.
But it's important because we're looking at the word review here. Review the results and adjust. So as you're meeting with the P3, you're going to review, okay, here's the problem. You've missed some meetings, and we need to kind of help you out to resolve the situation. So we review that results. Now how are we going to adjust it? We're going to say to them, or she may suggest, or he may suggest, well, I need to get my assistant Cub Master more involved and some of the leaders to help me out. Because sometimes at work, I have to stay late, so I don't get back in time.
And there's times that situation where you've talked personally with the Cub Master to say, let's review what's going on here.
Right.
What can we do to help you resolve the problem? And if he wants to ask for help or needing to ask for help, well, then make the assignments in your committee meetings that you have so that they know they have to fill in for you on occasions when work or whatever emergencies that he's not coming has to be. That way, we're not going.
Yeah, flipping a coin.
Trying to figure out what
Heads or tails.
you need to make that plan so we know what is scheduled on the calendar, or what program is being taken care of in the Cub or in the PAC. What do you call it? PAC, the PAC program. What do you call it? The weekly program they have. I forgot.
Well, it's an
anyway.
It's an activity. It's an activity each week.
Or the program for the scouting, or whatever.
Correct.
Group of family of the scouting it is. That way they know that plan is being for that week. I need help just in case. Could you fill in?
Okay.
Well,
Glenn, the one thing that I really appreciated you saying, because he brought up something that's really important, the committee. The committee also needs to be realized that, okay, I'm bringing this up as the either committee chair or the COR, is that in unit 988, we're having this problem. And I think we may need some help. What are your thoughts? So you can get some thoughts yourself as the COR to take back, or even as a unit commissioner, to take back to the unit commissioner and say, here's what our committee thought. Maybe you could use this as some of your results, okay? But the important thing, again, is that once you've got to that point, you need to continue to monitor. You need to monitor the situation. You can't just say, okay, here's our resolve, and then let it go. You'd maybe want to visit with them in 2 weeks' time frame.
It's a follow-up.
Yeah, do a follow-up.
Making sure that things are continue
Correct.
to happen.
In the meeting that you had with your key three. Okay, moving on.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
In this process we're talking about here and in real life experiences, your input on when, if ever, it's appropriate for a unit commissioner to say, okay, I will be the bad guy, so that the committee chairman doesn't have to confront the scoutmaster. I can be the fall guy if something needs to happen. So you two can maintain a talking, working relationship. I'll be the bad guy.
All right. That works sometimes, but it's best that we resolve it all together so that everybody is at peace and that we can move forward. Because even though you're trying to resolve it yourself, you're going to get yourself in my mind, you're going to have a problem in resolving the issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, yeah, see how you could just be another one of the.
You could be another one. You could be another one of the players. Okay, so here's this picture. What do you see? What's wrong with this picture? This whole picture right here. What's going on?
Well, one person's not involved.
Okay. This young man right here, he's twiddling his thumbs. As you can see, the scouts are involved in a project over here, and they're involved in a project over here. But this young man is not doing anything. So how would you correct this situation? Glenn?
If I was sitting here watching the troop or the pack go on, I would walk over and ask, what can we do to get you involved? Or, come on over and see what's going on.
Okay.
Ask the young man, let's get you involved in doing something.
Okay. One of the things that you may want to think about as you're approaching this young man is you would say to him such as this, hey, Pete, I see that you're not excited about what's going on. Is there something there that we can help you with? Is it something that maybe we can have you? And he may say to you, well, I don't like Chuck over there and the other thing because we have problems. And so that's why he's on his own. Or he may say to you, well, I've done this before. I don't need to do it again. So what would your reaction be to him at that point in time? Well, let's sit down and let's discuss maybe some other issues to help you out. Your thoughts?
One of the things I'd maybe say is, I've never done it. Could you help me? Show me how to do it.
Okay, good
That
point.
way he gets involved showing the EDGE program to somebody else,
Okay,
even if it's a leader or another scout. If there's,
and that could be something that's being taught here, and he already knows about it. So you're getting him involved one-on-one.
right,
And which kind of helps because now he's interacting, but then you can kind of say to him, come here, Pete, let's walk over here to the units. Let's kind of hear what they're saying. Maybe you can interact with them because you've been through it and you already know it. And so he may then at that point in time kind of be a mentor, if that makes sense. Okay, here we go. We're going to move on here.
I like that example. I would not have thought of that. I would have tried to get that boy to go, since you know it all, go help teach.
Yeah.
But bring you into it and say, can you help me understand?
yeah, I've never done something like this. Help me to understand. Teach me to, And that's just the same way teaching the square knot. I work with the special needs, and it's a constantly never ending. Every week we teach the same square knot, and they'd still probably never tie it properly the first or several times. But as we continue to teach it, I might know it, but for them, give that boy an opportunity to do the EDGE program, and he has no idea that he's doing it, but give him the opportunity to teach somebody. If you know it, please tell me, because I'm not sure what's going on.
Cool.
Good
interaction, and it really brings up a good point. Now, one of the things that we need to do when we're identifying the cause is that we need to do that right there. We need to listen. We need to listen, let them discuss to us, okay, this is what's happening, okay? And then we can come back and we can talk about it. Okay, that's part of the process of identifying the cause. Okay, those are really two important words that you need to remember.
One of the things that we've done so far this year is we've done that new merit badge, citizenship and society.
Oh yeah,
and breaking it instead of doing it one-on-one, we did it in a group of 3 boys or 4 boys on a round table. And we talked about scenarios and asked for their thoughts.
Okay.
And for the special needs to open up and talk about their thoughts and feelings about it, they've never had opportunities to talk about things like this.
See, and that's what's important. And I appreciate what you've just said, because you are actually engaging with them to get their thoughts. And that's really important as well, because we're listening to, okay, well, I've never thought about that before. maybe that's something that we could do. And then everybody kind of, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, we could try that.
And,
So-
and listening to these guys, it might be a simple word or a hand signal or sign language, but they're voicing their opinion of what the topic has been brought up. How do you feel about somebody's bullying a friend or somebody that's new coming into the job area, and somebody doesn't like their color or the way they're dressed? How do you feel? And for them to voice their opinion, it's just been phenomenal to listen to scouts that have never really talked much to say something, how they feel about it.
And that helps you with what? That helps you to determine the critical issues that are going on within the unit, because now you're interacting with them. And so you're getting feedback to help you, to help them become a better unit, to help resolve the situation. Does that make sense? Okay. You got any thoughts that you'd like to add?
I hope I can remember this stuff.
Well,
I'm overwhelmed by it.
Right. And like Annalise said, because these are being recorded, I know this class has been recorded before, you can actually go into Commissioner College and watch these again to help you to have an understanding if you've got questions. Okay. And so now let's move forward. Now, here's something that you may want to think about in determining an action. You may want to consult with another unit leader and see what kind of thoughts that they have done or had with some of the units that they've been dealing with. That's not a bad idea. Or even with a group of units.
Some units might have the same problems.
Yeah.
You can help in, it might not be the same situation, but similar situations where you can help resolve the problems.
Correct.
with those.
Because as you're meeting and you're talking in this circle of all the unit commissioners, you're coming up with ideas that's going to help when you meet as the key three. These are some thoughts that you may want to consider. And then they can write that down and say, that's not a bad idea. We could try this. Okay. And so you would make a point of it in your records as the unit commissioner and say, okay, this is something that they've agreed upon. So when you go back to look at them, where are they in their process? Did they try that and is it working? And if it is, great. If it's not, what do we do to help? Okay. So now we're going to talk about the ACT process. Okay. The first one is to implement. Okay. We've got to implement the action. Okay. So we're going to establish a priority for the unit. Okay. We have to have that priority or establish it so that we can approach the leaders and let them know, okay, here's our plan. You need to identify the most critical issues that are within the unit. For an example, if the Cub Master, well, we'll go back to the Cub Master because that's a critical issue. If they're not there, then the program's not running correctly because the Cub Master is the most important person of the pack because she's the leader of the pack, right? And so we have to identify that. We need to be supportive. Now, I can't emphasize this enough. We need to be supportive of the unit. We realize that there is a situation, but we're here to help you, okay? So, the next one. Here's our scenario. Taking your scenario sheet, using your matrix system again, I'm going to give you about 4 minutes here. You receive a call from the district commissioner stating that the crew has not met the last month. You are asked to look into it. What do you do? Give me some thoughts, what you would do. If the crew hadn't been meeting for the last month, what is the scenario that we just went through?
Okay, getting a hold of the key P3, finding out why they're not meeting.
Okay, getting a hold of the key three.
Finding out what's going on and if there's conflicts of scheduling or what is it.
Okay,
We need to find out what the problem is and get the solution for it.
okay. I'm gonna go back one here, and I can't emphasize this enough. Be supportive. Okay, and we go back to the scenario again, because as a district commissioner, what's the difference between a district commissioner and a unit commissioner?
District commissioner wouldn't deal directly with the units.
That's correct. He deals with who? The unit commissioners. So the unit commissioners come back to the district commissioner. But as you look at that, it says right there, he received a call from the district commissioner stating that this is for the issue. Okay, so now he's at least letting the unit commissioner know that here's what's going on. Kind of stop by the unit and let's kind of figure out what's happening there and where we can help them and support them to create or to come up with a plan to help the unit to move forward. Okay, so that's scenario one. Okay, let's move on here. Here's scenario two. While visiting Troop 443, you notice that the Scoutmaster leads the meeting and organizes all activities. The parents say the committee tries to help, but the Scoutmaster is in charge. They say the youth had a patrol leaders council, but the Scoutmaster took over the meetings and the youth lost interest. Attendance is dropping and youth are leaving. Okay, what's the problem?
How did they come up with that scenario?
Do we see this a lot?
Well, it's supposed to be a boy-led program supervised by the Scoutmaster
Okay,
or any of the leaders that are in the different forms of families of the scouting, but the Scoutmasters shouldn't be taking over the meetings or organizing all activities. It should be done with the assistant or the patrol leaders and such, but maybe he doesn't have the education.
okay,
But that's something that right off the bat is, why is the Scoutmaster taking the lead? Is there just no leadership in the youth to do the leadership?
okay, so here's a question. Here you are as a unit commissioner. You just showed up to this unit because you heard that this was what was going on. And you evaluated that, oh, you know what I've heard is true. The Scoutmaster is doing everything. And so using your matrix system again, how would you rate the unit?
Probably the orange or the red.
Okay, how would you rate it?
The orange.
Orange? So there's two oranges. That's critical, right? Because you're almost down to the bottom of the red, meaning that there's a real issue there that's going on. So again, what would your plan be?
And I found that most of the time my initial action or reaction is wrong or not the best.
Okay.
So I would probably talk to my wife and say, hey, what would you do? In the situation that you had on the previous slide where the district commissioner called, it's okay, obviously this has been daylighted enough to get to the district commissioner, so I would call them and say, what do you know? Perhaps the district executive has some information if we were brand new to the unit, didn't know the leaders. gather the background that we could, get the perspective so that you had as much information as you could, and then start tying things together in your mind and finding out what's really going on. Is there no consistent youth leadership that the Scoutmaster can turn to, or have they not been trained? That was a big one in this unit.
Right.
Senior patrol leader had no idea what a senior patrol leader was supposed to do.
Okay.
And so he was filling that part as best he knew.
And who's responsible to help the SPL?
Scoutmaster.
Right there. He's the mentor to that SPL. So if there is issues, what should be happening is that Scoutmaster should be meeting with that SPL, and they both talk. But remember that the Scoutmaster, and then we do this lovingly, we remind him that this is a boys-led program. So he needs to say, okay, we already have a yearly calendar. We're going to talk about the 90 days. Today is what we're going, or next Monday, we're meeting, and this is what we're supposed to be doing. So with his SPL, they put together a plan to do what they're going to be doing for next Monday. But they've already made a plan for the 90 days, okay? So that Scoutmaster right there should be having a meeting. But again, we get back to the importance as the unit commissioner. The important thing is to remember is to get the key three involved. The COR, the committee chair, and the Scoutmaster. And we sit down with the Scoutmaster and say, listen, Scoutmaster, we've received some calls, and I was here last week, and I kind of evaluated the situation, and you are actually taking over. The youth have got nothing to do with it. And it shouldn't be that way. And you want to do it lovingly and kindly and be supportive. Remember the word supportive that we talked about, that we continue to go back and we help. Okay? Moving on.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
This is the situation, my reality the past few weeks.
Okay.
And in this case, the senior patrol leader's mother is the commissioner, or
Scoutmaster?
no, not the Scoutmaster, the committee chairman.
Committee chair? Okay.
And what my wife did is we have some old videos of the commissioner service where one, I guess the district commissioner in the video is teaching the unit commissioner, showing them what a troop meeting's supposed to look like.
Okay.
I wonder if we gave that video to Carol to sit with her son so he could see what a troop meeting's supposed to look like.
Okay.
Boy, light bulbs.
Oh, yeah. Good point. And there's a lot of good videos out there to help these SPLs and patrol leaders, because you have to remember that the SPL is responsible for the patrol leaders. Exactly. And they're all supposed to be working together for one goal, right? And that's what that's all about. Okay. Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Here is another scenario. A parent calls the district executive complaining that the PAC does almost nothing compared to the PAC in the next school. You attend a PAC meeting and see that the meeting consists of a flag ceremony, long announcement times, awards, and closing flag. Both the parents and the youth look bored and do not listen to the announcements. Okay, rate this. Rate this whole scenario on your matrix. What's going on?
Sit back and criticize.
Definitely needs improvement.
Okay,
It's weak.
what's your rating?
Probably yellow or orange.
Okay,
I mean, it's
How about
needs improvement. It needs the Cub Master needs to have some enthusiasm built
Okay.
underneath them, a fire. It all. I look at it as, have they been to training to know what they need to do?
yeah,
You know,
Right.
Have they received their training? to get involved.
Well, and here's what's interesting about this whole thing, is that you attend the PAC meeting and see that the meeting consists of a flag ceremony, long announcement times, awards, and a closing flag. Did they have anything going on as far as an activity? There's nothing mentioned there about an activity, so we already know that there's a situation there that could be helped. As a unit commissioner, it might be, as you meet with the key three, that you talk to the Cub Master again and say, you know, here's some thoughts that you might want to consider, and that you make your meetings a little bit more exciting for not only the youth, but the parents. Because normally when they have a PAC meeting, that's normally when they give their awards out. But they also have some kind of an activity that follows, which involves all of the, like the bears, the wolves, the lions, whatever. It involves everybody. So they have that activity instead of just having the same thing over and over and over and over again. And so again, I can't emphasize again enough that as unit commissioners, that you meet with the key three. That means that Cub Master, the committee chairman, and the COR again meet. And who did they get the call from? A call came to the district executive. That's going above the commissioner. I mean, they went right to the top. And so that tells you, you know, we've got a real problem here. Okay, moving on, because we got to hustle. Okay, we got to enter the facts when we find out when we're in the unit. We have to enter the facts, okay? We have to explain who, what, when, and where, what was going on within the meeting, okay? We give details. Now, these are things that the unit commissioner should be kind of writing down. Give some details. What do they see, okay? They should make sure there's a timeline is clear, okay? Is this hour a meeting, or is this hour and a half, or 45 minutes, or what? Okay? And this I cannot emphasize enough either. Do not be critical. That's not our point. Our point here is not to really start laying blame, because that's not what scouting's all about. Because what's going to happen? Leaders are going to say, I'm done. Get somebody else. And we don't want that to happen at all. Okay? And so, kind of have a little map over here that kind of shows you that there should be a unit assessment, there should be a unit service plan, and there should be a district commitment, and then it implements to all units, those key three. Okay? Now, what problems must be solved in a service plan? What alternative strategies are available? What strategies are you going to try first? Okay, this is after you've had your meetings. So you're going to put this together and you're going to kind of give it a little bit of a timeline. Who will be involved? It's going to be the key three, or a scout, or all of the leaders and the Cub Master, or the troop leader, or the crew leader. Who will know if the unit is functioning well again? Who's going to know that?
The boys, the parents.
The boys, the parents, and who, and more importantly, the unit commissioner, because he's the one who's been responsible to trying to get everybody together to resolve the issues, okay? All right. If all else fails, we have a plan B. Always have a plan B to fall on. If something is not going on, for an example, we get back to the first scenario with Cub Master not showing up. A plan B is to what? Give the assistant Cub Master a call and say, okay, here's our issue. We need to have you do this if you wouldn't mind. Would you be willing to accept that? And then maybe we can sit down and we'll put something together so that we can make the pack and okay? Okay. Now, we make changes all the time. We have to modify it, we transition, we transform it, we shift it, and we adjust. And then you got an arrow that points down right there. Everything is always new. Because once you make this change right here, You're gonna modify it, you're gonna transition it, you're gonna transform it. You may have to shift a little things, then adjust a few things, but everything in that whole thing, in this whole process, is new. Okay? All right, the follow-up. Monitor the unit, observe if there is improvements, communication progress to the key 3, and that's important, and then keep the DC and the ADC informed, okay? You should be able to, here's our summary with this lesson. You should be able to identify when a unit has a critical issue, work through the process and develop the action. Have practical experiences in solving issues. Can we have you be quiet back there, please? Okay, we're going back here. Have practical experience to solving issues. Okay, so we need to do all of this. You should be able to do this through all of this. Is there any questions? How do you feel about the lesson? Feel you learned something from it? The main thing to remember is that in a critical unit, when we make the visitation, we make an assessment off of that matrix system. We follow through to decide where they're at. Okay? All righty. Hey, thank you for your attendance. I appreciate your comments and being involved with our class today. Hopefully this has helped you to have an understanding of resolving critical issues.